Yeah, hello, hello. So, yeah, the original talk was like our product hunt's SSR history, but since today is like the 30th Friday, it's actually more like how we DDoSed ourselves a couple of times in the foot and once in the head. So my name is Radoslav Stankov. You can follow me on Twitter by my Twitter handler Stankov. And since the slides are a bit muddy today, and people have to like take photos and like get them sometimes, I have put them online, so I will tweet the slides afterwards so you can actually see them. So yeah, today it's like the horror story night, and we will have like Friday the 13th stuff. And yeah, so I have to be quick since I still have like 4.5 minutes. So yeah, I worked at a company called Product Hunt, and it was quite a peaceful place in the beginning. In 2014, we had just like the static Ruby on Rails site. We were on Heroku back then. We just have a cool Ruby on Rails site. Everything was normal, life was good. React was still not used in our project. And then it comes the 25th of February when we have to like do this feature, which I have no idea what the feature is about right now. But it has this weird commit. It adds something which is called Rails React. And this actually integrates React into a Rails project in 2015. And this is how the commit looked like. We used like a very interesting React component. And back then, we have this little piece here which calls pre-render true. The idea of pre-render true is we want to have server-side rendering. Why? Because React does server-side rendering. This was one of the selling points back then. So how does the server-side rendering work back then? So you still have a Rails app. The Rails app actually starts a Node application, and this Node application runs inside of the Heroku dyno, and the Rails app just sends some data to it, and everything works nicely. And you get a request, the request gets rendered, and everything is fine. But with the time passing, we start having more and more components which have pre-renders. Like this is a small history lesson. We added Flux at some point, then we switched to Redux, then we had like the React router, then we switched to Redux, and our small application, actually half of it became filled with small JavaScript calls, which starts a JavaScript process and it runs. And from this picture, it doesn't look so bad. It looks like a Rails app is calling multiple node services. But if you look closely, it actually looks like this. You don't have actually threading, so you just call one thing, then you wait for it, then you call the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And what happens is the response returns quite slowly. And this becomes very, very, very slow. And gathers this, and at some point, you actually get the response to the user. And it's kind of slow, like you don't know if your site is slow or it's something bad with it. Like you don't know if my slides are badly designed or the scene is like bad. It's pretty much like that. So we decided to take some drastic measures back then and burn it all to the ground. So our take two was in 2015, like in January, actually 2016, I have a typo there. And we decided that would be smart. We will still be on Heroku, but we would add more intelligence. What we're going to do is we're going to have an Nginx, then we will have a Node.js server running there, and it will call a simple JSON API and later GraphQL API, and it would render stuff. Like this looks sane. And if the browser requests JSON, it goes there, it works, it's fine. And yeah, it's working. It was cool. But not exactly. The nice thing about that is that if you think about it, Node.js calls Rails. It calls Rails, then Rails returns a response. But we are in Node.js land, and in Node.js land, we are syncing all the things. So the stuff happens like this. Node calls, Node calls, Node calls, Node calls, Node calls, Rails returns, Rails returns, Node calls, Rails returns. And at some point, your Rails server gets overwhelmed. When your Rails servers get overwhelmed, it usually happens when you are having DDoS. Somebody overwhelms your servers with requests. Then what happens? Your autoloading increases. Autoloading spans more servers. Then it loads more. You take the load, you load more servers. Then those servers take more database load, and everything falls apart. And you look like this, like you are very unhappy about it. So take 3, yeah, this was something we did this January, which actually saved us. We decided to be even more smart. We migrated to AWS Fargate, which was a beta at the time. And it was in a very beta state, but right now it's quite fine. And we actually split our applications into clusters, and now we can scale the Node and the Rails part fine. So this is like a happy ending story, or everything worked, everything now works as expected. So yeah, that's pretty much I wanted to show about our horror story. It was only 2 years of horror and 6 months now of not horror. So I'm waiting for the next horror line in our lives. So again, the slides will be over here. I will tweet about them. And thank you very much, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.